Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the sixth and final night of the fifth FitRef raffle. I hope all your submissions are in. We have an LRO winner. The Referee Society of Virginia won. Is the little LRO that could. Good for you guys. NERS in Ohio gave you a good tight run for it. But so Virginia wins a free L1 course from USA Rugby. And just like to thank USA Rugby for giving us this platform here and providing the prizes. Tonight's prizes will be your choice of a USA Rugby training shirt or a World Rugby referee jersey. Your size you choose. You just let them know when we get in touch with you. Tonight, this is brought to you from the Referee Development Working Group under the Referee and Laws Committee. Just so everyone knows, we're doing stuff. We're trying to just make things better for us as a whole across the country. And just so you know, someone out there is working on this this referee thing for us. Not everyone's returned to play yet. We have in Florida. I'm actually going to ref for the first time since November in this next week. I'm kind of scared, but I'm going to go for it. Because I don't like being away from my sport, and that's kind of what tonight's topic is about. So the topic is mental skills, but first we're going to talk about one side of that, a thing that we all deal with. It's a term referred to as sport disengagement. So sport disengagement is when you're done, when you have to hang up the cleats, or somebody tells you you're no good anymore, or you get injured and that's all it. So that's a real thing. When you wrap your life around something for so long and that's your identity, and then it's taken away from us, what do we do? So for me, like, I consult someone like Katie Wurst because she's a sports psychologist. She's a director of rugby at Queens College. Is it Queens College or Queens University in Charlotte, North Carolina? But welcome, Katie, everyone who's Katie Wurst is. So anyhow, let's talk about sport disengagement. A year ago, this COVID thing happened, and all of us were taken away from our sport.
Well, Haley, it's really great to be here today. And I want to applaud the efforts that you and so many more with the referee working group have put together, because some of the solutions or great strategies we can use going forward are thinking about how we can plan for events or adapt what it is that we currently do to still keep developing within our sport. So we're actually living it right now as a way to manage sport disengagement or transition out of sport. So I think there's a bunch of different pieces to this. It's one of the most important components is that it is not the same for every person, right? So descriptions of being done and lack of feeling your identity and other things might look completely different for other individuals in different places and locations. There's cultural components and implications, and then worldwide. So it is interesting that at some point, all of us went through a segment of feeling lost, right? So the same components of feeling grief, which a lot of individuals through the worldwide global pandemic for COVID-19, we've seen a number of people experience loss and important loss. And that loss can also mimic what it's like for loss of your sport to some degree. So going through components of bargaining, dealing with different pieces of it, and then eventually moving to acceptance is something that helps quite a bit.
Right. So one way that this all happens is through injury. Every athlete deals with injury if you play whatever it is long enough. I actually reached out to Katie in 2016. I say my ACL was ruptured because someone kicked me in the knee in a roundabout way. But anyway, at the time, Katie was at the IMG Academy in Bradenton in Florida. And so we were able to actually meet in person like 3 days before I had my surgery. And she gave me some really good ideas of what I could do to make the most of my time, strategies, how to stay positive. So Katie, let's talk about some of those things, some of the tools to use in our downtime or, when we're injured.
Well, I think one of the questions I usually start with is just like self-reflection on how much of the sport of rugby in general, and in particular for match officials, how much of it is mental. And we get various different answers, but nobody ever says zero of it. In fact, a significant number of people say that it's highly mental, or is a high percentage 90 to 100%. So yet we spend so much of our time doing a lot of physical training. So when an injury occurs or sport disengagement, such as all of a sudden everybody is put into something that has never happened before, which is the pandemic right now, to say that we're all kind of in this same space, that we're not playing, but we might be physically able to do things. And I've had many conversations with athletes, both referees, players, everyone, and especially coaches too, that the ones that have experienced an injury are actually in a state where they understand that everybody else is sort of like being in a state of injury right now, to where they're not playing. So the ones that I see have done well is thinking about how they've just adjusted the way they choose to train. So from the state of thinking about being injured, if you're injured, there are quite a number of other things you can do to work on your mental game. So examples might be visualization. Examples might be watching more match film. Examples might be just giving yourself different perspective from watching from different angles, right? So I think a lot of times with athletes, and absolutely match officials are athletes, they're always in the game versus taking themselves for a second. It's a gift to actually view the game from a different perspective. So some of those are just some examples of what you're actually able to do. So it can be, in some ways, it's, no one is saying that they enjoy the injury process or they would enjoy not being able to referee, but I can say that it can potentially give you an opportunity to improve your skills and find a new love and appreciation for the sport, because for a certain number of times there's a pause, and that pause can give you a lot of feeling for what it means to you as well.
Yeah, I definitely had that myself. It took me 8 months to get back, and I came back a better runner. I came back with a better brain. Came back a better referee. I missed a couple of big time whatever opportunities because of it, but that's just the way my career was supposed to go. So I've let all of that mischance stuff, like this is just how everything was supposed to go, and I'm okay with it, right? Let's talk more about visualization, because that's something that we can all do. Everyone's, it's hard to find a bit of quiet time to carve out, but talk more about visualization and how it can help us when we actually do get back out there.
Well, I think so from an injury perspective, like there actually is tons of data and research around how literally visualizing the healing process of the injury can actually reduce the recovery, or can reduce the time back to return to play. So it's something that you can do simply. It's just thinking, say in the case of an ACL, how is that process healing? How is that knitting itself back together? All of those parts of it. And it sounds like such an interesting concept that you can do. But it is something that you just get good at practicing. So there's different external or internal focus for every piece of the game. I love to think of it from sideline, or are you in the in goal view? Are you putting yourself, most often, we put ourselves as a center match official. Why not try putting yourself as the assistant referee or even the assessor, right? So change up the lens essentially. So if it's like a camera lens, if you change the angle, the perception of it, just try something that works for you. And like anything, it can be different for every individual. So and also just like, catching, passing, any other skill you would do, if it doesn't work right away, it's all about practicing. Okay. And getting in the habit of being able to use it on a regular basis can actually get you in a good state. So visualization is one way that you can help, and making it part of your pre-performance routine or whatever it might be, or even post-reflection, can be very helpful to get you to a point of flow state. And flow state is something that every athlete aspires to try to, get to that space. So
yeah, it's a good feeling. It's fleeting, but once you've experienced, all you want to do is get back to that space. So you mentioned, I think we talked about mental imagery, and you mean literally picturing the muscles and the little capsule of your knee and the little graft grabbing onto the bone and getting strong and everything, the blood flowing really good. I mean, you're talking about mental imagery on a cellular level, like that helps.
absolutely, it certainly does.
Yeah,
So
that helps.
A lot of individuals will talk about having, I'm having rugby dreams, right? So they think about being able to do that. And that's actually in one way a brainwave version of that. The other form is visualization just from watching film. It is a form of visualizing as well, to actually help fine tune it. So think of it as like your own personal highlight reel is something that's really helpful.
Okay. Well, so I had a sports psych class in graduate school, and then we talked about mental rehearsal. So, can we talk about mental rehearsal taking place of our physical training while we're down, and how we can actually keep our minds sharp using mental rehearsal?
It's, I mean, just the same way, right? So thinking at it from visualization, mental rehearsal, all these pieces of it, they all kind of align with being able to be something that you can do, right? So instead of focusing on what we can't do, so what we can't do right now might be go out and perform the same way we have been because of COVID-19 or injury or whatever it might be. Or honestly, you shouldn't go right back into what it is that you've been doing because of detraining, right? So if we've been off training. So an example of, instead of just, kind of being on the couch and being upset and frustrated about what you can't do, you can use that form of mental rehearsal, revisiting the physical work that you've been doing, something as simple as, what it's like to see the venue that you're going to be officiating at. And just walking through that in your mind's eye can make a big difference.
Yeah, and I mean, as referees, we can picture ourselves running from breakdown to breakdown and arriving at the perfect angle and scanning, going off to the next one. I mean, it can be kind of fun. I actually take it. I took it another level, and I did my visualization with physical training. So I'd make up a little game, and people at the park would think I was nuts, but that was part of it because people staring at you and making fun of you is part of refereeing. Sorry, it's just what it is. So, but that was sport specific because I'm looking strange out there and I'm doing my thing, other people are gawking, whatever. But in my head, I know what's going on in this imaginary match that I'm reffing. So I highly encourage everyone to train where there are people who stare at them and make fun of them. Because that's just something you just kind of have to not get used to. I'm not trying to scare people away from refereeing, but it's always good to be able to insulate yourself from that.
Haley, that's a good question for you, actually. What would you say is like the fulfillment that you find from refereeing?
Oh my gosh. Well, I just think about, like, when someone asks me that, I think back to when I was at the Savannah tournament years and years ago. I did the women's college final, and it was decided on a last minute play. I think it was Clemson and Virginia. And Clemson won at the very last minute, and those girls were hugging and crying, and they were so happy. And like those moments, like I get to be near people for those moments. Cause like when you're in college, like winning a tournament is a huge deal, and so they'll remember that for the rest of their lives. And I happen to be there. I just feel like that's kind of cool.
That's awesome. And everybody has these sort of different purposes or reasons. And that's a really easy question to help kind of frame for, if we're disengaging from sport right now, let's really drill down to what is fulfilling about it for us. And you
Yeah.
can even bring that into your visualization, right? So there's looking at your lines of running, looking at the call you've made, but then also add in like those moments of those athletes embracing because they won this championship. Or maybe it's really because they just made a great play, so not even as important as the outcome of the match. But I think really touching it, like take it one step further, right? Reach out to whoever was in that visualization for you during this tough time. Make a connection, relive that amazing moment. Now you're passing on the visualization to others, and now they're recreating that in their mind's eye and feeling that level of fulfillment from rugby that we can always have. It's portable, it can go anywhere with us. And as we work more on those skills, we can pause it, we can fast frame it, we can do anything with it. And I think that's something that's such a value to our sport, is we have all of this color, this exceptional components of sidelines and the ethoses and fun, exciting stuff that we can do.
Yeah. Cool. I will take a question. So referees tend to work alone. Any suggestions for connecting when we're back out with rugby teams that we might not know?
Well, I would say let's take that tendency to work alone and think about it from the perspective of the most, especially higher level matches. Do we actually work alone?
They don't, but
Right.
most of us do.
So let's just switch that, right? So make a constant effort to connect, right? The connection is what we're missing.
Yeah.
Everybody in rugby is missing having that consistency. I don't know any match official that comes to matches so they can be the only one making mistakes out there and getting the feedback from the sideline. right? That's not the part that is fulfilling. The part that is having that great conversation with the assistant referee or that coach after the game that says, that's the best officiated match I've seen, right? Or maybe it's, hey, I learned something new today. So how are we replicating and making those connections? So to start with, like, don't work alone. Let's get into a place where now more than ever, and some people actually do have time, right? So if you're not reffing matches every single weekend, now's the time to sit down and watch this segment, or reach out, and see, hey, I've been really working on something like this, or this has always been in the back of my mind that I've wanted to do it. Now we actually have the time back again. The same way that injured athletes go through this process of understanding they can do some things, okay, that have usually been spent in the gym or training or whatever else.
Yeah. So, what's the role of meditation in sports performance?
Well, I think meditation and mindfulness is really, in terms of, for match officials, there's a lot of either being in the past, or whatever just happened in the past is going to impact my future, right? So a great way to think about it is, wherever your feet are, that's where your head needs to be. So how do we work on being present? And being present is really all about that, taking that step back, right? And you can use, like, yoga and meditation go together great because it's using both physical activity, and the bonus for that is you can do that in a small space, right? So if you are in an area where you're quarantined or whatever it is, you can definitely use that. So it also helps you practice breathing. So one of the easiest ways to enact mindfulness or to be present is to use your breath. So simple breathing techniques are something that's really helpful. And in particular, it's something that you can do together, right? So if you've got your assistant referees get together before the game and make that part of your pre-match ritual, that breathing routine is going to help you get into that mindset where you're actually where your feet are.
So final thing, let's talk about self-talk, because a lot of people are just it took me the longest time to get it, but a lot of people are just in a bad habit of talking down to themselves and putting themselves down, like, why did I do that? Oh, stupid, So how can we train ourselves? What are some ways that we can remind ourselves to be kind to ourselves?
Well, one of my favorite things to think about is the way you talk to yourself. Is it sound anything like the way you might talk to a best friend or a treasure teammate, right? So that's just a simple reference for it. You have to be on your own fan club, right? If you are the harshest critic for yourself, then that makes life pretty difficult every day. Okay. So, yeah. Or even take it to the workplace setting, right? Would you appreciate if your boss talked to you the way you talk to yourself about your performance in your job? So one of the easiest tools that I use all the time is it's called recognize and reframe. Okay. So as your thoughts start to come up, recognize, are these thoughts positive or productive? Okay. And it's okay to have some negative thoughts, right? Everything is not all sunshine and rainbows. Okay. Especially now more than ever. It's okay to say, hey, I'm scared about what might happen with COVID-19, right? And I can acknowledge that thought, okay, and leave the judgment away from it, right? So say that there are some fears, there's different things going on. So then you should talk yourself around, like, am I really prepared to play? Should I do it? What is driving me to go do that? Okay, is it because I believe that it's going to be something that I have the proper safety measures in place, everything else, so that I am able and willing to perform at the level that I believe that I can? So, but I really think that recognition part, so getting yourself in the habit of, the same way you would think about like a key factor for passing a ball, or for refereeing, it might be something like whistle tone. Like, you're very aware of these key factors to do things well because they've maybe been, repeatedly delivered to you in the form of an assessment. So you also have to take some ownership to your own self-awareness around the way that you're speaking to yourself. Because if you've got an evaluator speaking to you in a manner which has tons of criticism, you definitely can't be more harsh than them, right? So, and make sure that there's some alignment. And it doesn't always work that way, right? We falls into the category of things we can't control, right? So I would say that recognizing them, reframing it. So saying, oh, that was a stupid move, or that wasn't the thing that I needed. It's just as simple as, hey, what can I learn from that now? right? And that to me is just a lot more enjoyable than going into it. And I think it does actually give you a level of confidence going into it, saying that if there are mistakes that are being made, they are opportunities for learning, right? And then I have a chance to do it in the future. But if you, again, tie it to the mistake I just made has this domino effect of opportunities floating away and whatever it might be, then you're actually not being very present. So, and that's just where the self-talk to yourself is going to be about: what are the small things I can do? What can I tweak here and there? Or just in general. And there's also internal and external, right? So some individuals are much more external and they will actually speak out loud about what's going on, but the internal self-talk, you just have to be the version of yourself that you find is hopeful about how we can do things differently next time.
Okay. So yeah, so you talked about, this all sounds very growth mindset. And so that's something that we want to talk to every athlete about, is everybody, have a growth mindset, and just be encouraged by the little things and stay positive where and when you can. Every referee has to find their own self-belief. How do you do it? It's kind of like in the Lego movie. It's like, how am I supposed to just decide to believe that I'm special?
Well, I think there's, and when you think about um, that component of being special, like I think is really, it's about like your value to the sport, right? The sport doesn't happen without match officials. Okay. So just start from that place that, it's absolutely necessary for you to be there or the game doesn't exist, right? So that right there says you are an essential component of what we do by just being there, right? Being alive and being breathing and showing up to the game means that you've accomplished a major goal that day.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and I think really like talking to yourself in that manner about that value, right? And then really dialing down to, what does drive me to be here today? What is fulfilling about this sport? What do I enjoy about doing it? Is a lot more intrinsically motivating. And self-determination theory talks a lot more about the ego orientation is like, I'm going to get this assessment, I'm going to get this grade, I'm going to get this appointment. Okay. And when we do that, what's the challenge with that?
Hmm. Well,
Okay. The challenge with that, Haley, is really that we don't control that a lot of times. Okay.
well,
So when we think about appointments, we think about evaluations, they come from different places. So if we have things that are more intrinsically motivating, like I'm excited to see how my performance has evolved over time, right? So going into, say, your first match coming off from the pandemic, instead of saying, self-talk can be, oh, I don't know if I'm in as good a shape as I was, or I don't know what's going to happen with the assessments. Okay. Some of those things, right, are going to put you into a mindset state where it's maybe not going to look the best for you. But if we can go into a place that says, I'm thrilled that I get to be back out here, right? And look at the people that I've connected with, and now I get the opportunity to see them again. So take away the social comparison of how well you're going to perform and really go back to the joy for performing.
awesome. Yeah. And I want to let all the referees out there know there won't be any evaluations done for a while. Okay. So forget about the assessors, evaluators, performance reviewers, whatever they are. Just like, let's let's go back out there and do our rugby for our own reasons. Like start with why. That author, Simon Sinek, that you put me onto when I was rehabbing, and my little journal that I kept, and my daily three things I'm grateful for, and I just made a little positive space for myself that whole time, and I really appreciate the help that you gave to me, and the people that you're still helping now, and so
Haley, like,
thank you very much.
absolutely. And it really is about like people that are interested, like injuries definitely are in the category of things that we don't control, right? But we can control how we look at our rehabilitation. So same with COVID-19, we can control how we make the transition back into play. So making decisions for yourself, not based on a need or a requirement to be out there, make the decisions to progress the way that's comfortable for you, I think is going to be really valuable. I would say like having a plan is always a good thing. Okay. Whatever that might be. So acknowledging like for those thinking about transition out of sport, because that's been definitely happening a lot, like acknowledge two things: that one day all of us will stop competing in some way, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that it's over, right? There's so many different ways we can engage and be involved and be of high value to the sport. Or even if that transition out of sport is for you, start thinking about all the things you would do with the time if you had it back. And many of us over this COVID-19 time have been doing that sort of assessment of life, of saying, wow, I actually got to do a number of things. I spent more time with loved ones. And maybe that can be refreshing and get you excited to get back into the sport.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Katie. You've given us so much. Thank you personally, and I just want everybody to know, there are ways for us to improve ourselves, even if we're not out there. So Katie, I'll let you go now. I know you have somewhere to be, something to do. So thanks for your time. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Lee. Loved it.
Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Take care. So let's look at some data. This is the high performance list here. There's the number of minutes. We had a lad, Alex Henquist, made some charts for us. Pretty cool. Total active workout time. So Ryan Haggerty and LV Asanye won. We had several people log in for 30 days or more. So well done to y'all. Referees who have a life outside rugby. Very good. And referees who work out. And yeah, being a rugby referee is life. So as you can see, all this cool data we have, we're going to, it's just nice to be able to play with it. It's just so cool to see. This is the manifestation of everyone's hard work. This is what it looks like when a whole bunch of people get together and decide to do the same thing at the same time and challenge themselves. So again, thank you to Joe Burpo for organizing the high performance section of this. So here's the last spin for the social division. Again, your choice of a World Rugby referee jersey or a USA Rugby chaining shirt. Dan Mantrek, great job. Thank you so much for all your hard work. We'll be in touch with you. So for the club competition, let's give it a spin. The last spin of our Fit Ref raffle. Renee Wittenberger. I'm glad she won because she's been working really, really hard. Okay, and for the high performance, good luck to everyone. Everyone who worked so hard. Brandon Castro, great job, mate. We'll be in touch. So what I'll do now is say thank you to everybody who's participated. Sport disengagement is kind of a reason why we started the Fit Ref raffle, because we knew everybody was dealing with being away from the game that we love. And so thank you to everyone who got on board. Again, congratulations to Virginia for getting all their referees involved. And it means a lot to see people all over the place. I have shout outs. Okay. So Dana Wasserman of New York, Dan Mantrick of New England, playing pickleball, and he won tonight. So we'll get you in touch with Nick Racono, because we know that he plays as well. And Renee Wittenberger did the Bronco, and she won tonight. So coincidence? Probably not. Eileen Curtin of Virginia did some kick and sprint conditioning. It's chasing a rugby ball. Like, that sounds like a really fun workout. Actually, used to do it myself. Stephen Valero wrote in from Potomac. He said he didn't think his interval training went very well, but hey man, like, that happens. So you did better than all those people who didn't get off the couch, right? So kudos to everybody who got off the couch and submitted their workouts. So there were several high performance referees who did over 30 days. Everybody who participated these past 6 weeks, it's been great. We've had a great response. Maybe we'll do something like this again. Who knows? I would like to mention this past week, we lost a member of our rugby community, Patrick McNally. He was my manager when I did sevens back in the day, and he was a good man, and he contributed a lot to the sport here in the States. So I'll, have a moment to think about him. So that's about it. And I wrote one last song, and if you'll bear with me, I'll play it. It's been really fun. This has been a really fun thing for me to do. Just, I don't know, this is some way that I can contribute right now while we aren't doing much. But anyways, this is my final sign off. Here, guys. We're all done now with the Fit Ref raffle. We're back fitting in our skinny jeans. Well, rugby's round the corner, and there ain't nothing we can handle. Now we have our choice of 2 vaccines. No one likes getting injured. Use the time for mental skills. You'll come back stronger when rehab is done. May your self-talk be polite, so you can let your inner sweat shine bright when you go have fun. Night, everyone.